Welcome to Builders, Budgets, and Beers. I'm Reese Barnes, and I started this podcast to have real conversations about money in the building industry, the wins, the mistakes, and everything in between. I believe builders deserve to feel confident about their finances, and that starts by hearing from others who've been through it too. This industry can be slow to change, but the right stories and the right tools can make profitability feel possible. Let's get into it. Alrighty, team. Mics are hot. We're ready to rumble. Thanks for jumping on. I appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Excited to be here with you.
Of course. And for the listeners out there, I think this actually might be the first time we had three people on the podcast joining from different locations. We had Hammett Homes on, and they had their team, but they were all in one room. So for some of you out there, we're going to kind of like be orchestrating like how we're talking so we don't talk over each other. But we've got the husband and wife team here, Cody and Kristen Dawson. So I don't intro you guys for yourselves. Give the listeners a little background on yourselves and a little bit about Patriot Custom.
Well, ladies first.
There we go.
Yeah. So back in the day, we started as Patriot Home Services, and that was really just Cody doing handyman jobs. So that's within the neighborhood. And to kind of go back in time, it was during COVID, actually. Cody used to work for another career. He was with another career. And basically during COVID, everything kind of stopped. And during that time, he was just wanting to keep busy because that's just how he is. And all of a sudden he's doing little in and out projects at our neighbors' houses. And then it just kind of blew up. And then we kind of hit a path where we needed to decide whether we stay with what he was doing or he decides to go down this path. And it was a big decision. I mean, he made good money. It was stable. The problem that we had with it was he was traveling all the time. So he was away from me and our girls. And so it just made more sense for him to go down this path. And so he did. And then once that happened, it kind of just, turned into something so much bigger than what it is today, from then. So, and then fast forward to 2023, I left my finance corporate job to help the business full time, and Patriot Home Services evolved to Patriot Home Construction, and then all of a sudden we have Patriot Custom Homes. So it's been a evolution that I'm so blessed about, for sure.
Fast evolution.
Yeah,
I love it. And I certainly want to dig in because that's like I hear two very well off corporate professionals. COVID happened. I imagine, I don't want to hear this from you, Cody, like what was like more of the driving force behind it, but you had enough conviction in construction to quit, not just like one stable, secure corporate job, but two. And that's where, like, I mean, we'll talk about this, but like what, and we don't have to go into details, but what were like the financial like cues for you guys to be like, this makes sense, right? Because that's a big jump. But I digress. We'll kind of use that as a little bit of an agenda. Hopefully we hit all the topics. Cody, like, what was it like for you? Like you were doing handyman work, you were traveling a lot for work. Tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah. So like Kristen was saying, it was during COVID. So, I worked offshore. So the quarantines that you had to do and the testing that you had to do, when you go offshore for what I did, typically it'd be, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. When all of that was happening with COVID, I mean, easily add an additional 4 weeks on top of that.
Dude.
We'd have to quarantine for 1 to 2 weeks prior, and then we'd always be going out, 1 to 2 weeks ahead of when they actually needed us in case there was any delays or anything like that. And then kind of the same thing when you come home, you're going to kind of quarantine and then travel time. So the length of time I was gone from home and Kristen and the girls, it got longer and longer. So that was kind of a big driving force for me to want to, look into doing something different. But, so I was also home for longer stretches of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started remodeling our house. And then once we got done doing that and we're like, okay, like nothing else really I wanted to do here. I just put it out there in like our community Facebook page, like, because I need to be busy. I'm like, hey, does anybody need anything? Like, I'll change some light fixtures or like put some tile down or something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that turned into the handyman thing. I think within like 3 months, 4 months, I don't know. Um, I ended up getting like my first actual like remodel type of
Okay.
project, and that was in November of 21,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like we were like 2 or 3 weeks from starting that project. I got a call from my supervisor saying, the day that we were supposed to start this remodel project that I had to be down in Houston to do 2 days of training and then headed offshore. And so that's when I told Kristen, I was all like, crap, like,
How are we going to swing it?
what do we do? Like, do I cancel this remodel project, tell them we can't do it, and or do I tell my boss like, hey, like,
Dude, I love
I'm
this.
going a different
Yeah.
direction? And it was tough. It was really tough, and I was really surprised when Kristen was on board.
Dude, what was
you
tough
know?
about it? I mean, I think it's obvious, but like, what are the details? Like, what made this a difficult decision?
Well, I mean, the risk. And I mean, I'd been with this company for like 13 some years at that time. So, I had a lot of professional relationships. What I was doing offshore was kind of like the peak of where I always saw myself in that industry. So it was like, kind of got to the top of the mountain that I'd always wanted to get to.
Yeah,
So, um, kind of like, the thought of leaving that was scary, but also, I mean, having 3 kids at home and sports and schools and, a mortgage and vehicle payment, all that sort of stuff, and putting all that on the line.
totally,
But what made it less risky and less scary at the time was knowing Kristen still had her stable job
totally,
and benefits and everything like that. So it made it less scary, but still, I mean, scary nonetheless.
totally. Well, and that's like
Yeah.
I mean, this is. I'm not going to say this is like the standard story, but I think that there's probably a lot of people out there in construction that can identify with that, like being the case, right? Starting with handyman service, and then you get the remodel job, and then you do enough remodel jobs, and then you pick up the new construction, right? You just like kind of like move it along. I guess just not to beat a dead horse here, but when you were looking at the remodel job and you're like in that decision making window with your supervisor saying, hey, we need you here on this day. And you're like, you and Kristen are like, babe, either I'm going to quit or I'm going to like cancel on this job. Was there any like kind of like financial decision making on this job that gave you the conviction to be like, okay, like let's take a step back. I could leave the job. I could leave the benefits. I could leave the celebrity, the status that I've gotten over my career. But it's going to be worth it because I think I can make 40% margin on this job. And I think if I do enough of them, I can make more money than what I'm doing now. Was that conversation had?
Definitely not on that job. I mean, at that time, it was small. I was going from pretty small, day in, day out jobs. And then this came up and priced it out. And it was going to be like the first project really where I was like bringing in other subcontractors and managing them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it wasn't big by any means. But it was, like you said, the thought of doing multiple and the potential of like, man, I could do 5, 6, 7 of these per month, and that will easily replace my income,
Yeah.
if not more. Then there's a talk of, well, I guess it was more when Kristen, she can dive into that part, like when she left, but, talking about like all the extra stuff you got to pay for outside of not having the corporate job. And so, I mean, all those things did come up.
That was a rude adjustment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a discussion for sure. I mean, of course it was.
Yeah. Okay. So you started during COVID. Well, I guess how deep into COVID? Because I'm trying to paint a timeline here. November of 21, is that what you said? Is when this project happened and you started to make that call?
That's when that project happened. Yeah. But probably, when I was doing like kind of side hustling it was like mid 21.
Mid 21. Okay. So you like basically had like 6 months of side hustle. And then you were like, let's rip this thing. Okay, sweet. And then, Krista, did you say earlier that you got involved in 2023? So like 2 years after? or did I
So I
mishear that?
think, yeah, so I got involved, fairly early on when it came to, helping with emails and, client communication, stuff like that. But once 23 hit, we were overwhelmed, with
Hmm.
really good quality projects. I'm doing things before I go to work, while I'm at work, after work, and it just became too much for me.
Yeah.
I'm still also doing everything with the girls and having a full-time job and helping with the business. It's not sustainable, long
Hmm.
term. And obviously I wasn't, completely tied to what I was doing forever. I mean, I liked what I did. I liked the people that I worked with, but I knew like long term, it wasn't always what I wanted to do. And I
Hmm.
knew that my business manager had, made a comment saying, we knew there was a time you were going to leave. So
Hmm.
it happened sooner than we would have expected. And so once I would say it's around the same time, ironically enough, November of 23. So 2 years later,
Yeah.
that was it, And so I just get my notice. I knew that I wanted to help with the business, after that. And then, once I left and I just put everything into it and realized, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But
Yeah.
it's been the biggest risk we've ever taken. Me personally, professionally, us as a couple, as a family, it's a huge decision. I think our family was, our outside family was very worried because they're like, oh my goodness, you're supposed to have this 9 to 5 job. It's stable. It keeps you this, it does that. But I'm like, once we did, it's just with the work ethic that we have and, how we're organized and a little bit different than a lot of GCs. It was just an easy yes, and it's only
Hmm.
jumped so many levels since I've left, since he's left. So I know that we made the right decision now, but it's still scary in the moment.
100%. Okay, so I love this. This is great. Well, I guess, and what was okay? So you said, Cody, you were offshore. Were you in the oil industry, or what were you doing in
Yeah.
offshore? Okay, and so
So
what were you doing?
I was like a specialized trade. I mean, I dealt with like downhole fiber optics and tooling.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right over my
exactly.
head.
That's how I
Yeah,
felt. Every
most
time he
people.
would like explain it, unless you're an
Yeah,
engineer, you have no idea what he's talking about.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Put stuff down
Yeah,
underneath.
that's the
Yeah.
easiest way to say it.
Okay, I love it. And then, Kristen, so finance. What was your role? Like, what did you do
Yeah, so I was
before?
a client associate for a large finance firm in
Okay,
the Houston area.
okay,
So I had done
okay.
that for several years.
Okay, and so client associate, like, were you like actually like working on like accounting and finance stuff? Were you more of like
Yeah, I
sales?
did
Like, how did that work?
everything. So
Yeah.
I helped, financial advisors. I facilitated clients, worked with our business manager. I was also a client associate coach. So I helped other client associates that were starting. So
Cool.
I had a lot of things that I was able to bring to the business on the business
Yes.
management side of it, which I think is
Mhm.
really what lacks in a lot of business owners when it comes to construction. They don't have that
Totally.
business management side of it. So I
Hmm.
was able to bring that in addition to the client experience that I had. And the fact that I worked with high net worth families has really helped as well. So I had a whole bunch of things that I was able to offer that I didn't even realize until I started doing this. I was like, oh, hey, this is what we did in our business. This is what we did in our business. And we're able to move that over to, Patriot Custom Homes, which has been great.
Dude, I love that. I literally just did an entire podcast. Well, maybe not an entire podcast, but a lot of a podcast with Tyler Grace. He's
Mhm.
out of Pennsylvania. And we literally just talked about like the importance of business acumen in construction companies. To your point, Kristen, is like a lot of these construction companies come in with a trade expertise,
Mhm.
right? And like that's where like someone like Cody, like
Yeah.
absolutely crucial. But then you have like a wife who's more on like the business side, the finance side, and like to whatever level that was, how important that is. Kudos to you guys, because not many business owners in construction catch that stride. And
Mhm.
it can take them a really long time to learn and emphasize the importance of it. Which
Agreed.
frankly is like my next question. Like, it's pretty clear that Cody is like the construction, the nuts and bolts, the operations, like building and getting the product going. Sounds like Kristen, you're more on like the business side. I don't want to overassume. What is it like working with each other? Where are the boundaries? What are the skill sets? Like, how do you guys like make this thing work?
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it for everybody because
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't think that it's meant for everybody. I think just Cody and I, while we've always done our things separately, when we've worked together, whether it's within our marriage or whatnot, we've always been better together. And I don't mean to be cliche when I say that, I truly do mean that, but what we can offer together is so much better than what we cannot offer if we're separate. So we've been able to bring that into the business, and it's only made us grow, only challenged us. I mean, of course there's obstacles and there's things that we go through, whether it's stressors or issues that we don't see eye to eye on, but we have that type of relationship. I mean, we've been together for about 20 years. And so we know each other pretty well.
There you go.
And I feel like I said, I mean, there's plenty of people who actually came up to me at my other business and said, hey, I had a business with my husband and we got divorced, and I've known people they've owned businesses, they've got divorced. It's not for everybody. I would say a lot of what we do, what has made it easier for us, is making sure that we're communicating. If we're having a stressful day, it's like, hey, let's communicate, like what was wrong, like what happened, what can we do better tomorrow, and realize, hey, maybe he has 80% he can give and I can only do 20%. We try to figure out how that works every day to day. But honestly, in a lot of ways, I feel like it can be easier for us because we have somebody that we can talk to and we trust each other. Not all GCs and builders have that. They don't have a confident person that they know that they can trust and confide in. And we have that with each other. And so we can always like go around ideas and kind of figure out solutions to problems that we're running into, which is nice.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's,
go ahead.
It's different when like you're working with your spouse versus like just a partner, because I mean, at the end of the day, I know Kristen has the same, good interests in the business as I do. And then ultimately, for our family. And you'll probably take criticisms different from like a partner or something, in business than you would from your spouse, like, understanding that those are valid, and help you improve on what you're doing on a daily basis. But yeah, and always being able to bounce ideas off of each other, and just understanding it's for the good of the business. But the other hard thing is that took us a little bit to learn was knowing when to turn it off. And so we'll hold each other accountable on that often.
I hear that regularly with, would it be like couple owned business, spousal owned businesses? I don't know. People that are married and own businesses together, is like, when do you cut it off? Right. And I even want to like dig in a little bit to like, how does the criticism happen? How do you guys balance professional, personal, while in like a very, like, you guys are married, right?
Yeah.
So like, in terms of like how you guys learned to turn it off, Cody, you mentioned it took a while to figure out. What did it look like before? What was the inflection point to promote change? And now what does it look like?
I mean, it's still something I think we're always going to be learning. Like as our business grows, as we get busier, as we take on bigger projects, we're learning how to handle all that constantly. I mean, every month is different. Every week is different. The amount of workload I have, can vary every week, and same with Kristen. So I think it gets to a point where, one, you're either understanding that like, hey, today's just going to be a really long day for me. And, we always value like our Saturdays and Sundays, especially. Those are days when we usually just kind of put our phones off to the side unless there's some sort of emergency happening. But for me personally, like being able to turn it off at a certain time or let go of certain things just came with giving up I guess like micromanaging, control over every aspect of a project, and putting it onto like my subs and my trades and my project managers and our admin, and just understanding like if I show them what needs to be done and we put those processes in place, it's going to happen. And if questions come up, they're going to ask. But I mean, honestly, I think it was probably a huge one is that we build processes and then we put those processes in place. I feel like that's probably a big thing that helped me to be able to, turn it off, at the right time in the evenings.
Totally. Did you, and not to cut you off, Kristen, because I certainly want your take on this too.
You're good.
But in terms of like building the process, again, I keep going back to this like Tyler Grace episode because this is like the man like almost like he like went into, what is it, anaphylactic shock due to stress.
Oh, I could
Just
see it.
crazy. Yeah, like he was literally doing that. He was just like working himself into the ground, huge perfectionist, and he was like, processes and systems set me free type of concept, right? With you guys both having more of what I would call maybe like a corporate background, were you influenced by Kristen to prioritize processes? Was it a collaborative effort? Did you both recognize the need? Again, like knowing that the processes helped you build the boundaries. How did that happen for you guys?
It was definitely collaborative.
Okay.
I think we both kind of realized it at the same time. We realized that, we need systems in place. And so having like a client portal and a CRM was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to document things properly was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, as we hired like our admin and as we hired a project manager, figuring out how I am able to let go of a lot of the field stuff and then just have the peace of mind knowing that they're going to do what needs to be done. Just creating those certain, like, go from A to B, from B to C. And then if, that doesn't work out, then you go to B to C2 and all that. Putting stuff like that in place it was definitely collaborative, but, it's from Kristen's previous work because it's, highly organized. And then even from my side of work with what I did was also extremely organized. When you're dealing with both sides, we're dealing with millions of dollars, either for, people's personal funds or, for people's business and mechanics offshore. You have to be extremely organized. There's just no real room for error. And so us kind of understanding that and realizing that, bringing that into our smaller scale has helped a lot.
I love it. Go ahead.
I would agree with that too. I would say a lot of what we have done with the clients that we have met is we're going in after a lot of contractors and we're fixing their work or, whatever the case may be, because there was, it wasn't as organized or whatever the case may be. So we've noticed that that's definitely what's missing from our industry is having those systems and processes in place. And both Cody and I have gotten involved in, different mentoring programs, within our city. I went to the builder retreat earlier this year, and that was definitely eye-opening for me. I was able to walk through a lot of things with the ladies in construction who go through the same issues that I do. And I think having that, exactly, that's
Did
it.
you just did you just say the builder retreat or the build her retreat?
Sorry, build her retreat.
Yes. Okay. So you said builder. I thought you said builder retreat. I started like totally kill the
Yes.
frame of thinking there. But you said that, and I literally just got done talking to Charlotte Mustard.
Oh yeah,
Morgan.
I love Charlotte.
Yeah. Charlotte's great. Morgan Molitor. I know Morgan.
All those ladies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. So I've heard a lot. You should absolutely talk about your experience there a little bit more. But I'll let you finish your thought if you still have it. If I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So meeting up with, like-minded women has been eye-opening for me as an, a professional individual, all of that. And I've been able to bring that to our business as well as us getting involved in other things with mentorship as well. It's the community that's involved within construction is unreal. And so we've noticed that very early on. So we've definitely grasped onto that and been able to really just take whatever we can, whatever we can learn from other people, whether it's the mistakes they've been through or, issues, trials, tribulations, all of the above, to be able to help us, make sure that our business is growing in the right direction. Is invaluable, so.
Totally.
Yeah, and it ends up being inspiring.
It is. We're very inspired by people and, where they're at and where they started. And we just know that there's the possibility of that. And so as long as, you have the right work ethic, you have those systems and processes in place, and you're like a decent human being, I don't know how you can't be successful, so.
Totally. I think like on the mentorship side of things, you guys, you mentioned earlier how, valuable it was having a spouse run a business with you, like knowing that their best interest is your best interest, right? It's like having that huge responsibility of running and operating a business is, I mean, a lot rides on the line. How would you say like the influence and the mentorship that you gather from these types of communities that you guys are a part of and bringing them back in, like how is that received from the other spouse? And like Cody, are you going to like communities that Kristen's not in? I guess how does all that knowledge transfer happen with you guys?
Well, like for Kristen, when she went, I mean, it was nice to hear kind of what she got to learn from other people's experiences, like she was saying, and the difficulties that they deal with. I mean, hearing some of their stories that Kristen told me, I mean, it's identical. Like it's whatever stressors, whether it's clients or it's money or lack of projects or marketing or social media and website stuff. I mean, it's not unique.
Yeah.
Every person that's working their butt off to be successful and do what they do, they're all experiencing these same things. It may be at different times, but at some point everyone is going through the exact same issue. So it's reassuring to hear that, because you get to hear how they made it through, or how they pivoted, or what they did, or who they brought in, or they talked to this person and learned this and it helped them, or what process they brought in place to help mitigate all of those issues.
Yeah.
So that's invaluable, because it saves you a lot of time, headache, money. But yeah, I mean, Kristen, and then of course, obviously, like the Build Her retreat, it was great because I mean, Kristen got to go.
Totally.
I feel like it was just great to be able to go to Costa Rica and have a good time. So I was definitely jealous, but I was happy for and like we'll go to like the International Builder Show and get to meet some really cool people there and do some networking. So
yeah, dude, you need to do the well, and it's not like male only, but Mark Williams, he does do you know Mark? Have you heard of Mark, the Curious Builder podcast?
Yeah.
Do you guys know Mark? Before I just
we don't know him personally, but we know him from social media. Yeah.
So he does like similar events. He did one in Zion, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, he has some good ones. I know I've sent them over to Cody too.
Yeah. I think it's part of like Coalition Summit too, I believe.
Yeah. Yep. So we sponsored the Contractor Coalition Summit. That's where I've known Morgan for a while. We've known Mark for a while. He's been on Adaptive forever. But yeah, that was also a great event. And I think like kind of to your point, Cody, is when I go to these events and I like hear people talk about them and the value, a lot of it is networking. A lot of it is, to your point, Kristen, is like the community aspect and just like knowing that you guys aren't in this fight alone. But also just, we talk to a ton of contractors and it's like a lot of these like people have more or less the same problems, right? And it's like when you can talk to somebody through a different lens that has been through it and they're like, hey, like it truly can be this easy, or like, hey, you're just at that milestone, like keep going and this is how you get out of it. Super impactful.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly. Growing pains.
Yeah,
Growing
totally.
pains. Yeah.
Totally. So, okay. So you guys are like, we'll just call it, well, I mean, we could call it 5 years. You're getting ready to come up on your 5-year mark.
Yeah, we're babies.
Yeah, you're babies. What does the business actually look like? Are you doing all custom homes? Is it a split between remodeling? What does your guys' business look like today?
Yeah, so right now we're still heavily focused on remodels, renovations, additions. Really, what we're focused on is more high end. So every project that we do, I mean, Kristen networks and kind of coordinates with a multitude of designers that we've known and got to network with. So every project that we do includes a designer. You don't really kind of piecemeal anything together. It's more like full scope projects or full renovation projects.
Love it.
But we're definitely geared more towards kind of like the higher luxury end of renovations. And then our goal and what we're marketing hard for at the moment is to get into the custom home builds.
Love it. Love it. I did a podcast with Garrett Goldsberry. And you guys should listen to it because him and his wife, similar story, similar situation, kind of. They started with like the renovation side of the business, and now they just got into the custom home building world. What's your guys' plan with tapping into that market? What's the strategy? What do you think you're going to do?
Yeah. So again, that comes a lot with, the mentorships that we've been talking to,
Okay.
asking how they started, because how else do you learn that stuff? By just asking simple questions. We've got involved in the Greater Houston Builders Association to really up our networking group, which has been great. In addition, we joined the Remodelers Council, Professional Women in Building, and then I'm also connecting with high-end realtors and then designers, and just spreading our name
And
is
our
really all I'm doing, because it's not that we can't build a house. I mean, obviously we know exactly step by step on what we would need to do. It's just getting that opportunity. And so the more full end renovations that we do, which a full house, or we demo a
Totally.
house and rebuild, the better. We've talked about
Mhm.
doing, a spec build. That's still
Yep.
a possibility, just to showcase our work. And then that way people know exactly what they're looking at. But I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, but just trying to get in front of the right people, I think. I mean, that's really the
yeah.
best way to start anything. So.
Of course. Cody, did you have something?
No, just
Agreeing.
agreeing.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting you off. No, and you mentioned the spec thing. That's what I hear as being like a really common way into going from remodeling into new construction.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, to your guys' point, it's like the step by step, this, but to build that reputation, if you will,
Hmm.
is like such a big piece to do the spec. I mean, what is the difference between just like focusing on just doing a spec
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to kind of keeping your options open? It sounds like to get like a custom home client. How do you guys think about that? The spec build to get in, or waiting for a custom home client?
Well, I would say, the big difference is like a spec home. I mean, we could start that whenever we wanted to
Exactly.
and kind of have full reign on how the build and the details and the interiors and
Mm-hmm.
design and location. But when it comes to waiting for a custom home build client, they're going to vet us. We don't. I mean, the portfolio that we have is all based on remodels. It'd be high end or anything like that, but it's remodels nonetheless. So, I try to think about it from the perspective of the client. If I'm going to have, this company over here that's been doing it for 10 years, building homes, and they have this massive portfolio and they have plans and semi-custom homes, versus this company that, has been highly focused on more remodels and additions. Um, Unfortunately, I feel like the more obvious answer is going to be to go with the guy that's been doing it. And so that's kind of like the hurdle that we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
overcome, especially with the type of remodels that we do. I feel like it definitely showcases the product that we put out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it almost seems like just getting that first client to, more or less from their point of view, take a risk and say yes.
Totally. Totally. So it sounds like that's just like, that's really the decision at hand. Like, you guys are at that point in the business where you're like, we've got the remodeling down, we're here, but it's just like, do we take the risk and start a spec, or do we go through that custom home process and get someone to take a bet on us?
Yeah, I mean, and then even with the spec, obviously everyone knows what kind of market we're in. Is
Yeah.
it's a risk of is that thing going to sell in 2 months or is it going to sell in 10 months?
Exactly.
Yes, that's a big risk.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. No, I love it. I love it. I guess in terms of, like, again, kind of going back, I mean, this has been great so far. I mean, just hearing how you guys do communicate, it's very clear. It's like, of course you say that there's a lot of communication, but you can tell that you guys are like very much in lockstep. I guess for the professionals that are out there that are maybe thinking about getting into business with their spouse, obviously communication is big. But what are any challenges that you guys came across that you would urge them to keep an eye out for, or try and prevent from happening?
I would say one of them would just be your personalities. I mean, Cody and I balance each other. I mean, and usually generally speaking, when you get married, you're balancing each other, right? And that's why you're a good fit. So I would say making sure that that's aligned. I would say Cody and I are used to doing our things separately when it came to our professional business. So coming together and realizing, like, oh, hey, like sometimes he likes to micromanage. I don't like to be micromanaged. He doesn't, it's not like that. in our marriage, it's very different, but professionally, that's how he is because he knows
Totally.
how to do it. He's good at it. And I respect that. But then I had to kind of, more or less put him in check and just say like, hey, like, no, like, we're not going to do that, and then explaining to him and showing to him that, this is how I do it. And this is why it's a good way. And then just kind of figuring out, okay, that's a good balance, and making sure that people are aware of, just because you're good married might be better just being married than
Business
running a
partners.
business together. Exactly.
Cody,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, it was tough, like, when Kristen first came in 23, because, I had been somewhat solo, right? Face of the business and managing like the day-to-day stuff for almost 2 years. There was like I don't remember, how long was it? Was it like roughly about a year or so before you left that you were helping like on the back end? I mean,
yeah, I would say a year.
she was involved. Yeah, she was involved. But then when she like fully like left her job and came into the business, there was definitely like this 3 to 5 month period where, trying to figure out like what she takes over versus like what I let go of. And that was hard, but it just comes down to like trust and understanding, like, this is what she's good at. I know she's good at it because, her corporate job did not want her to leave. And so, it's just, it's hard. And yeah, I think we both got very strong personalities, which, plays well into our business. But like she was saying, how we did our separate occupations for forever.
Yeah.
Even in this business that we own together, like, we still do our own separate occupations. So like understanding those clear roles for each individual is key.
Yeah, totally. Question for you, Cody. I mean, this is great. And this is just like another testament to like great communication. How did you respond when Kristen basically told you to kick rocks and not micromanage her?
I said, shut up.
Sure.
I'm not micromanaging you. You're micromanaging me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, when it gets to that point, especially with Kristen, I'm like, okay, I'll just let it happen. That's me letting go, which is really hard to do.
Yep.
And then, things just happen and it's all fine. And then I'm good, but it's letting go. Same thing. Like, when I bring on new project managers, it's like, I'm better at it now. Like,
I would say a lot of that too, that I have to kind of, hey, Cody, let's, because Cody's just so used to, if it's easier for him to just do it. That's his mentality. It's always been like that. Like, I'll just handle it. I know how to do it. It's quick. It's easy. I'm like, but Cody, we have these things in place. If you make sure that, hey, you're having the project manager, whoever, do this role, then you can focus on the business, which is what we need to be focusing on. We want to grow the business. So the day-to-day operations, he kind of has to, let go of it. And I think sometimes that's been a struggle. But I mean, and it still is, even to this day, because that's just how he is. But he's learning to get better with it, and just making sure that, we are on the same team on what we need to focus on. So
totally.
Yeah.
What an asset, dude, to have your wife just like, I feel like, ground you with that level of thinking. And I say that because, dude, that is probably the number one challenge that builders, business owners have, is getting out of the day to day.
Yeah.
That's what keeps guys at the same revenue volume, hoping that they're making a margin for years, decades, and they just can't get out of their way. It's just like, I can just do it myself. This guy doesn't do it right. I can't do it. I'm just going to do it myself. And it's like, now your wife's like, wait a minute, Cody, like, we have processes and procedures. We're paying people to manage work. We need to delegate it to them. We need to hold them accountable to results. Like, this is only going to make us better, and it's going to get you where we want to go. That's huge, dude.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's ego or like like pride in the work and, getting things done and accomplishing them. And that goes back to like what I was saying, like having your partner, who's also your spouse, be able to give you those criticisms and, those critiques, and not taking it personal versus, maybe if it was like an outside partner that was saying that sort of stuff, like it might come across different.
Totally.
It's
And I think,
funny.
go ahead.
I was just going to
No,
say
go
it's
ahead.
funny too because when I think about it, the day to day and the grind and all the things that we've done to where we're at, it's actually ironically has made our marriage stronger
I'm
because we've
sure.
learned to, use the tools that we wouldn't have to use day to day, because we're, obviously we're seeing each other at night, at the end of the day, but now we're like in it all day long with each other. I mean, sure, sometimes we get annoyed with each other, but in general, I feel like our communication has gotten better, the way that we can separate, work and life and balancing it all. I mean, it's definitely been a blessing for our marriage too, which is great.
Totally. I mean, and I think that's why I wanted to ask Cody, like, how you handled, and that could have been like too direct of an example that you probably didn't remember, but that's why I wanted to ask, like, how did you handle or react, like, being told, like, not to micromanage? Because to your point of, like, when you get this feedback from a spouse that is your business partner, you're gonna respond to it differently. And in your guys' case, it sounds like you guys respond to it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes like you mentioned, it like working in the business kills your potential of, 3xing, 5xing, 10xing your business if you're in the day to day forever.
Totally.
Um, and so, when you learn and you hear things like that, like the conversation with Kristen in that instance pretty much goes something like that. And it's like, you don't want to be doing this every day in, day out. You don't want to be in the field every day. We want to grow the business. We want to sell more projects. We want to, get our marketing and everything else out there and get into, new custom
Mm-hmm.
homes. And that's not going to happen if I'm doing the day to day, field stuff, which obviously for me, like it's just no, that makes sense, so it's gotta let these things happen. And yeah,
I love it.
it's tough.
I love it. No, this is great. Okay, guys. So if you, and then we kind of did like the, like, what advice would you give, which is like a lot of good communication, but just some wise words before we leave. If you have anything else to share, what would you leave the audience with?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, I would say, definitely getting plugged into different, like I was saying before, communities, giving yourself a lot of grace. I think sometimes that's what Cody and I struggle with. And I will say, before we got involved with, certain networking and the construction communities, there was times where we felt like, are we even doing a good job? Is this even like, should we just quit? I mean, I can't even
Totally.
tell you how many times we've both thought that, and it's just staying the course and knowing that what you're fighting for and the hard work and where you're at today, and then just even reminding ourselves where we started to where we're at today, like that is our force to keep on going, because I feel like we have something to offer that, not everybody has. And so I feel like if you have that within you and you know what the end result can possibly be, I mean, I feel like that risk is a lot more rewarding, and just kind of balancing that from understanding where you are, where you started at, where you're at today, and the potential of where you can go. But knowing that I mean, it's not going to be easy. It just, nothing
Yeah,
comes easy in life that's worth it anyways.
yeah.
Yeah, but
This is not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday thing.
Yeah,
yeah, but I think it's always like, it's like choose your hard, right? It's
for
like that's
sure.
kind of like a
Yeah.
Yeah,
popular cliche now, right? But it's
Yeah.
so true. It's like, dude,
Choose
what
your
are you
heart.
telling me? Are you telling me like 1 to 2 week quarantines on and off the offshore was easy to be away from? No, it wasn't, right? Like, and like,
no,
even like, it sounds like you were like really good at your job, Kristen, but like, are you telling me it was easy to like go to the office and like work for someone else and like do
No.
whatever else is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's always gonna be hard.
Yeah.
Like what experience do you want to get? What opportunity do you want to chase? Sorry, go ahead, Cody. Do
Exactly.
you have something to add?
I was gonna say, you know, sometimes like Chris and I will kind of sit back, we'll think about the business, and where, even though we're a young business, right? But I feel like so much has happened in the last 4.5, 5 years, And so we'll kind of like reflect back on that, where we were and where we are now. And definitely take the time to celebrate your successes, celebrate what you've done well, pat yourself on the back for what you've done and where you are now. And then obviously, certainly learn from your mistakes and put things in place or processes in place to make sure you don't make those mistakes again. Because if you don't, you're definitely going to be repeating mistakes. And sometimes those can come at a financial loss. Sometimes they can come at a reputational loss. So I think one thing that is good for anybody out there is, celebrate your successes and don't forget to pat yourself on the back every once in a while.
What does that actually look like for you guys? Like celebrating success? Like, is this like wrapped up for a week? We're going out for cocktails. Does this look like dinner? Does this look like stay at home and just like be intentional about applauding each other? What does that look like? How do you guys actually celebrate your successes?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I would say anytime that we're able to step away from the business and to just focus on Cody and I and our business and realize like all the hard work and everything that we're doing, even with our girls, when they see, fun things on social media or see our projects and they're like, wow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to remember, like this, what we're doing for our clients and what we're doing for, families is amazing. And so just taking that time to get away and celebrate with our family, I think is really important to us. So just disconnecting a little bit is us celebrating. I know that
Totally.
kind of sounds weird to say, but
no. Cody, do you have anything to throw on?
And definitely being able to get away with like just our family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing that is super important to me. I mean, that's the reason I left my previous job, is to be able to spend more time with my family. So when we like, that's a great way for me to be able to celebrate successes, be able to take the time off.
Totally. Agreed. I think that's perfect. The example that you use, Kristen, is like when the girls see your guys' work on social media, or like there's like a chance of like this little outside reminder. I think that is more than enough celebrating. It's the intentionality. It's removing yourself from the day-to-day grind. I mean, like, holy shit, we're standing up a pretty cool business. We provide a really cool product. Like, we're helping a lot of people. Yeah. And I think one question, go ahead. Do you want to throw on something?
Oh, no. I was just agreeing.
Okay, cool. And then for Cody, like, are you getting more time off than what you had? Or not maybe time off, but more time with your family than you did?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just nice, now that we have certain people in place as well, we can schedule long weekends or even holidays that come up. It's like being able to take those days off and give those days off to our employees, letting our clients know we're closed those days, and just kind of having full control of our schedule. But yeah, being able to be at track meets and watch my daughter play volleyball, or go to gymnastics or go to school events, all that sort of stuff, which just, I really couldn't plan my schedule because for well over a decade, I was an on-call schedule. So I really had no idea.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. I appreciate you guys hopping on. I thought this was a great episode. I thought you guys did an incredible job at articulating what's it like building a business with your spouse. And I thought there was you guys did a good job with like the tactical takeaways. I think they're applicable even for people that aren't doing business with their spouse. But I hear this trend a lot in the construction world, the small and medium business world, of taking on this challenge on this journey with a spouse. And I think your guys' story is a really great example to hear. So appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We've been working hard.
Yeah.
I can tell. It sounds like it. Cool. Well, I'll let you guys get back to your week. Thanks for jumping on the pod. And if there's anything that we can do, let me know. But it was a treasure. It was a pleasure to meet you guys and hear your story.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. You bet. We'll see you guys.
See ya.